Welcome back. In this video I'm going to be going over a map that I made for a map jam. This is the In the Iron Garden, which is a map that I made for the Yeggs Spring Map Jam this year. It was a 72-hour event where you have to make a map, and builds were done by Mike Leoncraft, and I did all the commands as well as a few of the resources. Mike did the posters. We were both pretty overloaded with the amount of workload that we had, so the result is it's alright, but it could be better, it could be worse. So let's just get started. When you walk out here, you get a little bit of narrative. There's a guy that's talking to you, and he will drop down the weapon that you get to play with. So he sort of gives you some background and then drops down an item. When you pick it up, he keeps talking to you and gives you best of luck sort of messages. And the first weapon you get is this, like, laser. I mean, all of them are lasers, but this one's like a fire laser, and it breaks these leaves, these like yellow ones. It doesn't break any green leaves. It strictly breaks yellow leaves, and it also vaporizes enemies. It doesn't vaporize doesn't vaporize the bosses, because those guys are separate. They're better than that. I didn't mean to fall down here. It's kind of slow. I am going to be showing where all of the secrets are, so if you want to play this blind, you can go through, or there'll be a link in the description down below to links with, or to a link that has all of the jam maps that were made for this, all 16 or something of them. I don't remember how many are submitted, but a bunch of them were submitted, and you can check those out. You can check this map out as well, and you can come back when you finish this one or whatever. So the first secret's right here. Secrets are ender chests, and inside of them are upgrades. You can upgrade your energy or regeneration rate. If you empty out your energy bar a bit, it will slowly replenish, and you can change the rate at that. You can also upgrade your energy and your health. I cycle between max energy and energy regen because I don't die that much while playing this, so it's not a high priority for me to get health, but I'll get health because I'm going to be getting all of the upgrades. When you take damage, you can, I'll wait for the message to appear, you can hold left shift to heal, and I just heal the player with area effect clouds, because when you take damage, or when you're hit by an entity, I have an advancement trigger that will then remove 2 health from you using attribute damage, which is really nice. Any damage you take is 1 heart, and you can regenerate 1 heart with 4 energy, basically. Each energy is 1 of these pips, and as you get more energy, you get more pips, but the bar stays the same size, just so the entire HUD stays on the bottom left there. The next upgrade is right here, just past these destroyable leaves. So that's the first 2 upgrades. And we are going to move on to the first boss. The whole idea of this map was going to be you get a weapon, and you can get different abilities for that weapon by fighting bosses. There are 3 bosses that give you abilities, and then there's the final boss, which I had 1 hour to make, and it shows very strongly I only had an hour to make it. I ended up accidentally sleeping in. I have a problem with map jam. Like, I ended up sleeping in the last day. I have a problem with map jams where I won't sleep. Usually during a map jam, I'll get about 4 hours of sleep per night, which isn't healthy. I have a problem where I completely neglect my health. I took probably anywhere between 4 to 6 hours of breaks and about 14 hours for sleeping. And that's why I really only do map jams once to twice a year, because I need the rest of the time to sort of cool down. Also, I spend a lot of the rest of the time after a map jam polishing the map that I made for the jam to publish it. Like, Isolated Isle was a jam map, and I went through and just polished it, or I say I, but TS and I went through and polished it and made it into a more proper map for release. And for this map, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm probably going to remake it from the ground up. Mike and I already have been talking about a few ideas we want to do with this system. I definitely want to elaborate on this more and make better boss fights and combat mechanics. I have several ideas, but we're going to get into fighting the first boss here. he sort of zoops up. He has this grapple ability, and he can also grab blocks of TNT and throw them at you. He also grabs enemies, but you can see that here. He grabs these enemies from that area behind him there, and you throw them at you, but we're just going to defeat him here. He throws the TNT faster and faster each time, but I always just shoot it immediately. I make these bosses look easier than they probably are. I have no idea. I have no scale on the difficulty of these bosses. Now that I have two abilities, you can see that I can switch between them. I am scrolling my scroll wheel rapidly right now, like I am just going all over the place, and I'm only between these two, and that's because the hotbar is fake. The only part of this whole thing here that is real is the underlay here. That's the actual hotbar texture, and then the health, because I didn't feel like remaking hearts at all. TS has done it in the past based on an idea that I had, but I couldn't be bothered to do it for this jam, so I just didn't. And also, vanilla health is fine. So you can zoop up here with this grapple beam, and other things that this thing can do is grab enemies and throw them. So let me see if I can show that. Where's one at? There we go. So you can grab them, throw them. If they have those green particles on them, that means you can throw them. As well as the grapple points turn or have green particles when you're looking at them. So let's do energy regen again. So that is the grapple beam mechanic. I'm going to go around and find some more upgrades. There's another one here. I don't know, I get pretty much, I know where all of them are, so I'm just going to grab them all for this video, because, you know, why not? I had a lot of fun doing this jam, although, I don't know, I was very stressed, and I just want to use this system somewhere that I feel like is a better complete package, because there is a lot of potential here, I feel. This entire system here with this gun is basically completely separate from the core, or from the bosses and everything else in this map. Basically, I made the system for the gun and all of the upgrades, and then I made a map around it. And that's sort of how I make maps generally. And it's not really a problem, but for this, I spent a day and a half making the core mechanics. Or actually, probably closer to a day making the core mechanic for the gun, and then I only had 2 days to flush out the rest of the map's mechanics. And it really shows to the map's detriment exactly, or it shows that. It just shows that I didn't have a lot of time for everything. And that's a big theme for this entire project, I feel, is the complete and utter lack of time, as well as ideas to some extent. I'm always very low on ideas, and I use jams to sort of force myself to come up with something, because otherwise I'll just sit on a single idea forever and never elaborate on it. When it comes to my map Overshadow, which is a PvP map that I have never made a video on, actually. I think about that every once in a while, how I've never publicized that map in any way. It's just sort of there. I published it on Realms, and then I just haven't touched it since I've published it, because, I don't know, it was a PvP map that had this movement gimmick that, I don't know, it's not very technically impressive. Just like this map in itself isn't that technically impressive, I usually like to try to make videos on the more technical aspects of map making, and something like this is just a slog through making basic mechanics, or just basic stuff. While complicated, it's not particularly interesting to talk about the tech that goes into it, because there's just a lot of moving parts, and I feel that it doesn't make for good, like, let's look at the code or let's talk about what's going on. Like, probably the most technically interesting thing about this entire map is the grapple mechanic. So if I'm looking at a grapple point, I summon a minecart in the player's face and hold it there until they look away from the grapple point or until they enter the minecart, at which point I then teleport the minecart to the grapple point they're looking at. And it makes for a pretty decent, like, interpolated movement bit there. I did at one point want to try doing a more complicated thing with it, but I ended up just doing the simple teleport, and it feels pretty nice. Although I am fairly good at making it look more reliable than it actually is. That is something I was joking about with this, is that I know how to make this look a lot better than it actually performs. So, you know, if you play this yourself and you have some weird time with it, it's because it's kind of a very finicky system. Once you get used to it, it's easy to use. It's just sort of that time before you know how to use it that it feels very iffy. Whoops, I accidentally placed ice inside of myself. So, you know, it's... I think it's pretty good as is. I'm not sure if I will revamp how the grapple system works, or if I'm just going to leave it as is. It used to feel less good because the grapple used to be able to shoot when you weren't looking at something that could be grappled, or tractored, basically. It would just shoot a beam and do nothing, which was kind of crappy, so I made it so it knows if it can shoot. And if it can, it will. If it can't, it doesn't. And it makes it feel... Sometimes it feels like the system's ignoring you, but it makes it less annoying because then you know that you can grapple something. Like, the last boss I could grapple, but this guy I can't. So you have to think of a way to move this guy, because he just sort of stands there. This is a very contrived boss fight, by the way. You have to get this guy into the water, and then you have to freeze the water that he's in. I was very low on ideas by the time I got to this guy. So this is pretty much the best I could do at the time. If I could actually nudge this guy. This boss fight's slow if you mess up at all. So now he's in the water, you shoot him. Damn it, I nudged him into the water. Okay, go on. This is how the boss fight was originally going to go, was you stand in his face, like this, you just stand here, and then he blows himself up. But that made for a very crappy feeling boss fight, because the guy looked stupid. Like, he just stood there like an idiot, until he exploded himself, and then it felt wrong. I mean, this as-is already isn't that mechanically interesting. It probably could be made a little bit faster pace, and I probably could have had a different way of him damaging you than knocking you into some magma that damages you and then launches you into the air. Like, this entire boss fight was very iffy, I feel. It still's alright. I know exactly how to do it, so I don't know, it's less interesting to me. I feel like if you don't know exactly what to do, it's a little bit, less, I guess. I'm missing a few upgrades, and I don't know where the last two are, so... You know, I said I'd be getting all of them, but... I don't remember... I'm gonna check a few of them. I'm gonna check up there and up there. I don't remember if I did those or not. So let's do that real quick. Did I grab this one? Yeah, okay, I did. I got these then. Oh, I know where one is. I'm not gonna do that one just yet. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do it. We're gonna backtrack. So one of the upgrades is in the sewer, because I wanted the player to sort of have to go around to previous areas, because this is sort of, as I said in the beginning, this is a Metroidvania, at least I wanted it to be, so I wanted there to be some degree of backtracking, but we didn't get around to being able to integrate a lot of that sort of backtracking and loop-back like gameplay into the map. So disappointingly, this is the only backtracking sort of secret there is. Would have liked to have more. I really, really want to elaborate on this idea. I like the idea of fighting a boss that has an ability, and then when you kill the boss, you get that ability that the boss is fighting you with. And then you get to mess around with it. It's a nice way of tutorializing the mechanics of something, and if you already know how to, like, shoot the fire laser, then you see some guy shooting a green laser that picks up items, you then sort of have an idea that, oh, I can shoot that green laser at something and pick it up. And with the ice beam, it's a guy that shoots some ice, and then it makes an ice pillar and stuff. I don't introduce that it can freeze entities, because I don't know, I wanted to elaborate on more, but I didn't get the chance to elaborate on a lot of stuff, a lot of the mechanics, so disappointingly some stuff just didn't get fleshed out to the degree that I wanted it to. And that's really going to show that I didn't get to do as much as I wanted to here with this final boss. This boss took an hour, and it really does show it's just a wall boss. And this guy can be defeated in about 5 seconds if you know what you're doing, because it's just something that you shoot with your laser. I mean, it's... narratively, I wanted to have some conclusion to this, like when you walk into the room, it says something to you, like, oh, you are thought crime or whatever, but we didn't have any time. I had about 5 minutes before submission deadline to get everything fixed. I was fixing bugs up until the very last minute, and I just didn't have time to polish or add any flourish to this boss fight at all. So, as you can see, his eye sort of goes gray and then it has red, so you can shoot it with your red laser. And then after that it turns blue and you shoot it with the blue laser. And then after you shoot it with the blue laser it turns yellow, and then you shoot it with the yellow laser and then it dies. And that's the final boss. It sort of has this animation where it freaking dies, and then that's it. And that's the map. I like the mechanics of this, and I want to use them. So I'm going to. I've been working on a different map for a while, and if you follow me on Twitter, you will see me post about that map every once in a while. I sort of post random updates about stuff I'm working on my Twitter, so if you want to follow that, I'll have a link in the description below, where you can check out just random stuff that I work on from time to time. I only tweet videos, pretty much, about just map making stuff. But I'm probably going to take a break from one of my larger projects that I've been working on for a while now to focus on elaborating this idea, because it's really cool, and it plays nice. And I feel, given the opportunity, that this can be a really good map. So, stay tuned for that. I don't think I'll make any videos talking about the tech of this, because really the only thing that's interesting is the minecart grapple hook. And even that is kind of iffy on reliability. I'm probably going to have to mess around with it a bit to make it more reliable for everything. It's one of those things that's sort of iffy on how it works in multiplayer. I don't entirely know how this map works in multiplayer, because there's a lot of... like, theoretically, it works in multiplayer. It's one of those things where it probably works okay, but it doesn't play the best. It's not made or balanced around there being multiple people around the boss fights, because the boss just sort of looks at the closest player pretty much all the time. So if there's a bunch of people... also, I realized after publishing that there's this upgrade here, and there's another one here, and they overlap. But, like... I don't know. I'm going to elaborate on this idea and make stuff more reliable and whatever moving forward. But for now, this is a map that you can play. If you want to check it out, you can. If not, whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all next time.